Good morning, everyone. This is Mrs. Thompson. If you can hear me fine, will you please give me a smiley face so I know you guys are all there? I'm not seeing any smiley faces. There we go. Okay, perfect. Yes, excuse me for starting a little bit late here. I have some technical difficulties. On my end, I cannot see the whiteboard. It's halfway gone, and so Dr. B is going to help me out today, and she says that you guys can see it on your end just great. So if you have any more, if it comes to any pages that are blank, then let me know as we're going, and I will do a desktop share of my PowerPoint. But hopefully we'll get all the way through it, okay? And hopefully as it just continues to load, it will work. Let's see, it says you only have page 3. You guys shouldn't, I don't think you should be going on to the next page. I think I'm confused because it should only just have the page that we're currently on right now. Brandy, will you type in and tell us what page it says? Can you see the map right now? If you can see the map, guys, type it in. Oh, most people are saying no. And yeah, I don't see the map either. What page do you guys all see on your end? What's coming up? Okay, I'm just going to do an app share. I hope it works. So let me open up that app on my computer. Just a second here. Sometimes Blackboard, oh, look it just came up now. Can you guys see it? Yes, okay. I have no idea why it did doing it, but now I can see it on my end too. Sometimes this Blackboard Collaborate, I've heard that it's an older version. We're supposed to be getting a newer version this winter or December, so I really hope they do because I've noticed that it's a little harder to work in, and I've had a lot more technical glitches in it than I've ever had in the past with the previous Illuminate. So I apologize for those technical glitches. If we have any more troubles, just let me know and I'll try to pay attention to the chat, you guys. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I want to know where you guys are at. I'm going to give you pen tools right now. Dr. B and I, we're up here in Idaho. I am in the southeastern part of the state, down here by, in between Pocatello and Idaho Falls, in a little town called Pingree, Idaho. Dr. B's up here in Pullman, Washington. She lives right on the border of Idaho and Washington. And so if you guys would go ahead and take your pen tools, you should have those now. You can click, it should look just like what I have here on the screen for you. You should be able to click on the second one down. This is a big version of what you should see on the side of your whiteboard. Click on the second one down on that little triangle, and you should be able to pick a pointer button and then show us where you are in the nation. Great. I love seeing where everyone is. Feel free to chat as well. Yes, thank you. It makes it so our sessions are so much better when everyone is collaborating and talking in the chat, and if you can be as much of a participant as you can by really collaborating with one another, it'll make your session a lot more beneficial for you, and you'll go away feeling like it was a great session today. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. I think it's always fun and interesting to see where we are all over the United States and even throughout the world, that we can all come together right now on the computer together. It's kind of fun. All right, well, this is a little something that sometimes will have parents ask me, hey, I want to print the whiteboards in what you did because they want to have those notes for later. So this is how to do that if you would like to print what we are doing today and all of my whiteboard. You can go up to the top left-hand side of your screen and click on File. Scroll down to where it says Print. And then on this page, you're going to click Whiteboard. And that will come up and ask you, do you want to print all of the pages or just the current page? And if you just decide what you would want to print from there, okay? And yes, from Texas Virtual Academy, Brocky says you can also click Control P. Okay, excellent, good. All right, thanks you guys. All right, so that's a little tip for you. The objectives today of our session is that parents are going to understand how to motivate gifted students through different work. That's really important. I don't think it's fair for gifted kids to have to do more work, but they need to do different work. Understand the differences between acceleration, compacting, and enrichment, and discover strategies to prevent underachievement. So the main focus is that we're going to talk about motivational strategies and how to motivate your gifted kid. Tell me, have you ever reverted to this kind of motivation? I know I have. When it comes to motivation, I recommend a three-pronged approach. Yes, I know that I have definitely reverted to that kind of approach when it came to motivation with my kids as well. And sometimes it can be really frustrating. And it's just like, okay, do it or you're grounded for your life. So parents of gifted children are oftentimes surprised and dismayed when their children underachieve in school. Learning disabilities in gifted kids can sometimes lead to underachievement, but it's often just a lack of motivation. Motivating some gifted children can be difficult. Neither rewards nor punishments seem to work, especially if you have a child that's intrinsically motivated. So they're motivated within, and extrinsic rewards don't make them tick. So what can you do to motivate your gifted child? Well, I hope by the time where you're finished today, you'll be able to walk away and say, hey, I can implement these strategies, and I feel like I am going to be able to help my children be motivated to do the things that we need to do, and as well, it will make my day better as a parent, you know that, and it'll make their day better too. Kids thrive for routines. That is something I always thought was interesting in child development classes that I have taken, that I had no idea. You would think that a routine seems restricting and it's harder for them or something. They have to conform. But actually, kids thrive for a routine. So that's something interesting to note and to remember. Sometimes parents of gifted children forget how important motivational strategies are. You know, if you have a child who speaks like an adult, but your child is only in their little 8-year-old body, sometimes you forget, and it's easy to forget that, hey, they're still kids. I try to remind the parents that I work with that even though their child seems so much older, it is important to still provide motivational strategies for your child. So I'm going to send you a file transfer right now that is a really great list of motivational strategies that we have had a teacher in Idaho Virtual Academy put together that we share out with families all the time. So let me hurry and get that for you. Here it is. I can't talk at the same time. Okay, it's called Fun Ways to Motivate Your Kids. Go ahead and click yes that you do want to accept what I just sent you on your desktop, and then you can save it somewhere easy to find afterwards. Okay? All right. Well, depending upon the age of a student, short-term rewards may be as short as an hour for possibly a kindergartner finishing, let's say, a hated math assignment, or a week for a 6th grade student lacking motivation to clean his room. Short-term needs to be within a time period that is not so far off that the student forgets about what they're working towards. Now, in saying this, your long-term rewards should be within a reasonable amount of time as well. Unmotivated, gifted children generally don't focus on anything but the present. 2 weeks into the future is even hard for some of them to imagine. So be sure to accommodate your short-term goals and your long-term goals to be within a reasonable time period, all right? Because that is something that otherwise your motivational strategies aren't going to work. Sometimes I'll have parents tell me, well, hey, you know what? I want my kid to do things because of the self-enjoyment of the value of work, and that they accomplish it and do a great job, and they're happy with that. And I explain to them in return that, you know what, though? Your kids are still kids. And that, you know, that will come through maturity and through growing up. As you teach them these simple things with being able to set goals and achieve those short-term and long-term goals and receiving a reward for them, that is a stepping stone to eventually gaining the maturity to have that it will come along, and yes, you'll be proud of the job well done. Okay, so please remember that. All right, I have an example for you. My daughter, she's gifted, and she is a 3rd grader, and she does not like to do her daily chores. So I've provided a job chart for her that rewards her short-term goal of a variety of tasks immediately. So what happens is when she is finished taking out the trash, she's able to put a red check mark next to that chore being completed on the job chart. She can then put one piece of popcorn into a jar. And then when she's finished dusting the family room, she gets to put another red check mark next to that task and another piece of popcorn in the jar. This goes on for each task assigned throughout the day or the week, okay? And I will have marked already, pre-marked on my empty jar, a red line about 1/4 of the way up. Once the popcorn pieces reach that marked line, she earns a popcorn movie party. And this will take her all week long to reach the line, or maybe if it's something I'm wanting to do that within a couple of days. It depends on your child. Remember, you've got to use, you know your child best. You know what time period they're going to still be interested and want to work towards it. For a kindergartner, it may not work to go a whole week. Maybe you need to make those short-term rewards being instantly with that popcorn, putting it into the jar, and the long-term reward is at the end of the school day, they finished all their work and maybe they get to have their popcorn party then. I don't know. You see what is going to be best for your child. My short-term reward, though, it's important to see where my short-term and my long-term rewards are. The short-term reward, though, is the popcorn pieces into the jar. That's immediate. And the long-term reward is the line that it takes about a week to reach. In choosing rewards, it's really important, you guys, to involve your student in those choices for their reward. Things that you're willing to give them and things that they want to work for, or else they won't care to work towards that prize. So, you know, definitely, you don't have to do things that cost money. I mean, if you want to make it something really fabulous, go ahead. But it can also be an extra 15 minutes to recess. I don't know any gifted kid that would not be totally excited. No, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of gifted kids that would be very excited to have an extra half hour to read their favorite book that day. That's a reward. There are a ton of different ideas, but it's important to sit down with your child and say, okay, let's go ahead and decide what you're willing to work towards. You being the parent and deciding what is, what you're willing to do and what you're not. Guide that. But make sure they are excited about it or they're not going to work towards that reward. Okay. Usually, intrinsic motivation comes with that maturity and age. Remember that. So having that motivation from within to get a job, to have a job well done, and the sense of that satisfaction, that usually comes with maturity and age. And that it is a huge part, motivational strategies are a huge part of a child learning how to set goals in life. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and move on here to my next slide. This is another strategy that is very helpful. Sometimes, I know I've experienced this with my daughter, and sometimes it's on a math assignment. She looks at the whole page of that math assignment, and it is huge to her, and she just melts down and doesn't even want to start, okay? Sometimes children will get overwhelmed by a large task. It's not that the task is difficult, because she knows how to do every single one of those problems on that math page, but she may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Rather than begin the task, a child will give up before he or she even begins. Have you seen that before? Give me smiley faces if you've seen this with your child before. Sometimes they'll give up before they even begin because it just looks overwhelming to them. Yeah. Or there's a fear of failure. That's a whole nother session we'll do on perfectionism. Sometimes it's a fear of failure. They're not used to not doing everything perfect, and so they'll give up before they begin. But it is important here that if you help your child see the task as a series of smaller tasks, what you'll be doing is you're helping that child see that each small task is a small goal and try setting a reward for that goal. Sometimes rewards won't be necessary once a child is able to see the task as a manageable one. So perhaps with my daughter's lesson, her math lesson, I can cover up half the page and we just work on this part. And then that's enough to be able to work her through that session, that she doesn't see the whole thing and it's not too overwhelming. Okay. Rebecca says instead of seeing one single math, she sees all the problems for the whole entire year. Too overwhelming. Exactly, exactly. So maybe that little strategy of just covering it halfway up, or maybe an idea is cutting your page in threes. Maybe the first section you cut it in half, and then the next session you cut it, and so you're presenting one page at a time. You know, whatever it may be, and that's your lesson. I don't know. You see what would work best for your child. But, okay, the next thing is, let me change my slide here, is praise kids sometimes, or sorry, praising your child's efforts. That's so important. So make sure, a lot of times gifted kids sometimes have trouble connecting personal effort to achievement. Much of what they do and learn comes so easy to them. So they can achieve with very little effort. To help a child succeed, you need to praise their efforts at success and make that praise very specific. This is important with gifted kids because, for example, let's say instead of saying, "Nice work, hon," it would be better to say something like this: "You worked hard on your science project. You really earned that A." However, avoid using the reverse. Don't say things like, "If you worked harder, you would do better." Okay, so be specific with your praise because, like I said, it might have came really easy to them, and so that praise doesn't mean too much. But if you emphasize the things that they did do correctly and that they worked hard on, that effort is helping them to be able to feel better about it. Gifted children love a challenge. So by turning otherwise dull homework into a challenging game, you can get your child to do it. Okay, so this is kind of a fun thing. I know boys, young boys, they would love to do something like this. Some children like to race, so you can ask them to see how quickly they can get it done without any mistakes. Checking their work lets them see you care about it. Another creative approach to homework is to link it to an interest. For example, a dull math worksheet can be the decoding assignment of an astronaut space mission to Mars. Unless the work is done correctly, the whole entire mission will fail. Even the smallest mistake could create a problem that can cause the mission to fail. So, you can really get into it, especially with those creative gifted kids. And that's something that would be a great strategy to help your kids turn that homework into fun, creative games. All right. Let me go on here to time management. One thing about gifted kids is that sometimes they have a hard time with time management. When they start school, gifted children usually have few problems keeping up with the work. That's easy. They learn quickly and they learn easily. Remember, we've talked about this before in our last session last month, that usually gifted kids will pick things up in 1 to 2 repetitions. While that may sound like a real advantage, it can also lead to problems. These children may never learn to manage their time in order to get work done. At some point, whether in high school or in college, they may feel overwhelmed by the work they need to complete and don't know how to set time aside to complete tasks. Teach your child how to create and use a time management schedule. So I'm going to send you right now another file transfer. And this is, I can't talk at the same time, hold on. Okay, click yes when it comes across to you that you want to save it to your desktop, okay? But sometimes those gifted kids, can get so involved into what they're doing. They just are absorbed into their whatever it is they're doing that they forget about everything else, and that time management is important. Or when they're younger and they finish things so quickly, and then they, it just comes naturally to them to finish up, and then they have all this time to goof off. As they get older and have more and more stuff, they have a hard time knowing how to organize their time. So this article I just sent you is a really great article with different links and websites on it that has some awesome ideas for helping you help children, gifted kids, learn how to manage their time. Okay, so I encourage you to read through that after our session today. And And then this is just an example for younger students. You know, it's kind of fun to maybe use a hamburger or a pizza and divide it up into the pie, you know, a pie chart, whatever it is, to show and to help them manage their time and where it's going to go. But there's some other templates that are on that website that I sent, or that file transfer that I just sent you, that will give you some ideas too. Okay. Oh yes, Dr. Brandy says, tomorrow I'm also sharing a technology program called iPicky you can use to create very cool spelling vocabulary notebooks. Oh, okay. And I was going to say if that was something that it would help you also. So, okay. Let's move on here to our next section. And what makes gifted kids tick? Okay, so everything we've talked about so far are several motivational strategies that work for gifted, and they really do work for non-gifted kids too. A lot of these strategies would be great for, or actually all of these strategies are great for both sets of students, all right? However, what I'm going to talk about next is something that is specific towards a gifted child only, okay? There are 3 strategies that are absolutely necessary accommodations that have to be made for a gifted child. I like to refer gifted ed to the flip side of special ed. It would be completely unheard of to have a special ed student integrated into a traditional classroom without having special learning accommodations being made for that child, right? So it should be just as unheard of to have a gifted student integrated into a traditional classroom without special learning accommodations being made for that child as well. Because of this, we have to provide acceleration, compacting, and enrichment. This is what makes gifted kids tick, okay? Please, so many times I'll have parents say, well, I feel like I'm cheating. And I've explained to them, no, this is an accommodation that has to be made. If it isn't, your child is going to underachieve, they get bored, they hate school, and they can even suffer from depression. This is a very real thing. You have to make these accommodations for your child. Okay, so let's talk about these accommodations, what these are specific to gifted kids. Tell me, what is acceleration in the ALP program? I'm going to give you pulling tools. Let me see here. All right, so your pulling tool should be up here on the left-hand side. You see the A. Go ahead and click for me. What is acceleration in the ALP program? All right, so let me go ahead and make sure your polling responses are private, so you can't see each other's stuff and you feel okay. All right, so go ahead and put those over here on the left-hand side. Choose A, B, or C. Is acceleration talking at a faster pace? Or is it B, quickly going through a grade level? Or C, slowing down to the child's level? Up here in your participants box, you see the smiley face. Over to the right is the letter A. You can click on it, and then it will give you the option to choose A, B, or C. Okay? All right, so go ahead and do that right now. Take a moment and click either A, B, or C. What is your answer? And let's see what the majority of you chose. B, excellent. Okay, quickly going through a grade level. If you chose B, you were absolutely correct. Okay, so let me move to the next slide here. Yes, what it is, there's 2 different definitions here that I have. It's when you progress through an educational program at rates faster or at ages younger than conventional. It's also allowing a student to move through traditional educational organizations more rapidly based on readiness and motivation. So think to yourself, acceleration is quickly going through that grade level, okay? You're quickly moving through the content that they already know and have mastered. Now, in saying this, I always have to tell, you know, there's always I'll have parents that are like, oh, but I don't want them to miss every single thing. Remember how we talked about before? I don't know. All my sessions blend in, so I don't remember if I told you guys this on the last session or not. But giftedness usually runs in families. A lot of times, well, studies show that a child to a parent to even a grandparent, they will run within 10 points on an IQ test. And so a lot of times perfectionism is a real issue a lot of times with gifted kids, with gifted people. And so a lot of times I'll have my gifted parents that are also perfectionists, and they don't want to skip a single thing. And I tell them that, you know what though, remember what I said. You would never, I mean, if you had a special ed kid that you didn't make those accommodations for, you would feel terrible, wouldn't you? Remember, this is the flip side of gifted ed, or special ed. Gifted ed is a flip side of special ed, and it is so important. You have to make these accommodations for that child. If not, you will see your child be unmotivated, hate school, bored, and even they can suffer depression. All right, I said that twice now. That is so important. I hope that you take away from this today and know that this is necessary for your gifted child. But in also saying this, I always give that caution. Acceleration only happens when it is necessary. All right, gifted kids will sometimes go in grow in spurts. Okay, you may have a child that you were ready to skip through a grade level at that kindergarten level, but then they steady out and they stay at a first grade level till maybe they're, I don't know, 14 years old. And then at 14 they have another huge gap of learning, and so you need to quickly speed through again. Just because you accelerate one time doesn't mean that you're going to not accelerate at another time in their life. But usually what I do with my families when they first come into our program is, especially my little kindergartners, a lot of times we'll do that acceleration, and then once they reach that grade level, most of the time then they just continue to do what's called compacting, and we'll talk about that next. But let me talk a little bit more here about how to accelerate in the gifted program. Okay, great. Tanya asks, what would acceleration include? Okay, I'm going to show you. This is a picture of the online school, all right? So let me give you an example. If you have a kindergartner coming into school already, reading on a first grade level, because of this, the kindergarten phonics course will probably be a waste of time for that student because they already know it all, right? So I would encourage a parent to accelerate quickly through the language arts by doing unit assessments only, skipping all those lessons in between. And perhaps you may even do just your first and second semester assessment. So you can quickly get the next grade level and finally have the student working on information that is new to them. It doesn't mean they won't still pick it up quickly, all right? Because remember, we've talked about this, gifted kids usually master a concept in 1 to 2 repetitions. However, it means that they have not been exposed to this information before and have not mastered it. So the way you find a unit assessment is if you are in your online school and you come here to the Progress tab. You guys are all familiar with this tab or this screenshot, okay? So what you would do is click on Progress, and then from there you would choose whichever progress bar you're going to accelerate through. So let's say it is literature, all right? Whatever it is, it would be phonics if I were talking about that kindergartner. And then what you would do from there is it's going to bring up your language arts blue phonics. Here it is. Now this is your lesson list, your materials, your advanced prep, and your objectives. That's what screen you come to when you click on the actual bar right here, okay? Remember, I didn't grab a kindergarten phonics. I have a 3rd grade screenshot here, so just ignore that. Anyway, let's say this is phonics. So you click on it, that bar or the blue hyperlink, and it will take you to this page. And then you can scroll through and find from that unit, right here, unit checkpoint. That is a unit assessment. That covers all these lessons in between. All right, so you then would need to mark those lessons complete on the online school as you finish each unit or semester assessment. Sorry, wait a minute. You don't need to mark each lesson complete within the unit. You know what? I better have you check with your teacher in your school. Because I know in the Idaho Virtual Academy, if my families, I know they've communicated with me that they're accelerating quickly, what I do is I tell them just mark the unit checkpoint complete, and your progress bar isn't going to continue to go across. Okay, so this thing right here, that dark purple, isn't going to continue to go across. It's going to be a lot smaller even though they're completing all the units. It will show that it doesn't look like it completes 100%. And that's okay, because what I do is I go in afterwards and I can see, oh yeah, they mastered every one of these units. Okay, I'm ready to promote them onto the next grade level. Okay. Now, if you have a student that's really picky and really wants to see their progress bar go across, go ahead and you can mark each lesson complete. But like I said, talk with your teacher from your school to make sure that that is okay. If that's not allowed in your school, then you would probably have to do the lessons. You would mark the lessons, but you know, definitely you would only be teaching the unit checkpoints. Okay. All right, if you have a child, what I tell my parents, the way you know you're doing an effective job is your child is mastering 90% or better. If they don't master 90% or better, then you know, oh, hold on, I need to slow down and go back and reteach. And that's where you would pick up and start teaching your lessons one at a time. Okay. Now, in saying all this, I need to give out my little warning because I'm a K2 kind of specialist. It's important with your kindergarten kids. A lot of times my kindergarten kids will come in, well, a lot of gifted kids, parents will often tell me, my child practically taught themselves to read around 3 years old. They just picked it up. And because of that, the way that that child is learning to read, a lot of times at that young age before they enter kindergarten, is that they learn to read through whole language, through sight words, and they didn't really learn the phonics. And because of that, a lot of times gifted kids are horrible spellers because they recognize the words almost like a picture. They see that picture and they know what it is. Okay, so that's why I kind of warn my kindergarten parents. I say, hey, make sure when you get to the first grade phonics then, I would like you to pay attention to those units. And if you have any places that they aren't knowing those rules, please make sure you go over those. And they may take 3 months to go through that first grade curriculum because they want to make sure they cover that information. So that's just something to know as a little side note, okay? But again, you can either do unit assessments or, like I said, maybe it's even semester assessments. Math, that's real easy to do. A lot of times families will come into me and their child will be ready to just do first and second semester math assessments in kindergarten, and then they get into the first grade curriculum already. And so that's very appropriate. And remember, it's not cheating. It's an actual accommodation that needs to be made. Okay? All right, let's go on now. Once you have accelerated quickly through the curriculum, all right? That was acceleration. Now remember, the second thing I talked about was called compacting, all right? So compacting is something different. This is what the majority of my kids are doing now all the time, okay? Accelerating is getting you right on the right place in the curriculum you need to be at. But now compacting is your daily work, more or less. All right, give me your polls, everyone. Is it A, using several compact mirrors at once, B, making one satisfied, or C, smashing out the fluff? Yes. Oh, you'd be surprised. I have, okay, there's the numbers going up now. I had quite a few people choosing one that you wouldn't think. I thought my answers were really simple. So let me put these to the whiteboard. And the answer is C, smashing out the fluff. What does that mean? What's it mean to smash out the fluff? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. You think of a trash compactor. And a trash compactor, we used to have one of those at my mom's house. People don't really have those anymore. My mom hated it because it just compacted the garbage so much that it was hard to lift and get it out of there. But anyways, when you smash out the trash compactor, you continue to smash it. And that's kind of where I get this term from. But what smashing out the fluff is getting rid of all the extra fluff to the lessons, all right? It's getting rid of your extra repetitions, the extra activities, the things that your child already knows, that your child has already mastered, all right? So what that is you do the most difficult thing first. You look at your lesson plan, okay? Pull up your lesson, and the first thing I tell parents to do is go to the objectives. Look at the objectives to the lesson, and then you highlight those, and then go through your lesson or your teacher guide of what you're teaching the lesson to be, And I want you to take a highlighter and only highlight the things that you're going to actually teach. That's important because that's that's making a parent have to do a little bit more prep. But again, it's an accommodation that has to be made for these kids. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. So you start off with what's the most important, those objectives of the lesson. What do they want in the state of wherever you're at? But like in our state, the state of Idaho, an age-appropriate third grader needs to know this stuff in this lesson. So I've got my objectives. What can be skipped or eliminated? Those things I'm not going to highlight. What do students already know or are able to do? Some things I don't know, so I may need to highlight that because I don't know if they know it yet. What will they grasp easily? That's what I'm going to not highlight. What can be accomplished quickly? I won't highlight those things. Most parents do not do each and every activity in a lesson. So why should your gifted child? Okay? If you need to skip the optional lessons, go ahead and do that. A very best practice of gifted eds is pre-assessments. Pre-assessment is the show you know on the online school. It's usually the information from the previous chapter, right? Just to review. You can use this for your pre-assessment to that previous chapter to see what you need to cover before you even get the lesson. All right, so you go on to that next, let's say I'm on lesson 2. I would go to unit or lesson 3, check out the show you know, and that's my pre-assessment before I teach lesson 2. If they don't know very many of those things, then I know that, okay, then I need to teach this lesson a little more detail, all right? However, if they master this, then they probably have already mastered the lesson. So pre-assessment is huge. If you can do a pre-assessment before they take the test, then you know what to focus your teaching on. You possibly might completely compact out of that test. In other words, smash it out, all the extra fluff. Here's an example from a lesson, Nero and the Burning of Rome from the online school. This right here, oh, well, let's start over here. First, like I said, you look at the objectives, see what the objectives are to the lesson, all right? Then, secondly, this right here, get ready, a quick review. What's that? That's what they did yesterday. You know what? A gifted kid already mastered that because remember they picked up things in 1 to 2 repetitions. So because of that, you can cross that out. Here are my actual teaching points, all right? Here is the show you know, like I said, can often be your pre-assessment before you even go into the lesson, and then you can focus what you're going to teach on. And then right here, this history record book. I don't know, can this be skipped? You see if it's necessary to what your child needs to learn. Otherwise, if not, then you can skip it. These optional lessons, definitely, you can skip those. They're optional. Okay, now the whole point of this is not to miss important work, all right? Because, no, I'm not trying to promote you missing important work, but what I'm trying to promote is that at the end of this lesson, if your child, you've smashed out all this fluff, all these extra things, and I'm only focusing on the teaching that they have not learned yet, it's new information, and if at the end they take the assessment and they scored 90% or better, then you've done an effective job of compacting. What I'm trying to promote is smashing out the fluff, because a gifted child doesn't need all those extra repetitions. And the way the K-12 curriculum is designed is for a general ed student. Now, general ed student can take 7 to 9, even some kids can take up to 16 repetitions before they really master that concept. So when you think about that, if you were to start from the beginning to the end here, that's your 16 repetitions of what you needed to get. But you have a gifted student, and your gifted student has to have this accommodation made for them, or like I said before, they get frustrated, they get bored, they can even get depressed. So make sure you apply the compacting. If you have questions about how to compact, please contact your teacher. She will be happy to jump on the online school with you and to help you understand how to compact. Okay, so let's move on here. I haven't been paying attention to the chat, Brandy. If there's something I need to address, type it in really quick. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. I think, oh good, thanks, Brandy. I love having Dr. B on the session with me because it helps it so I can just focus on what I'm teaching. Let's see. Jennifer asks, are there many parents that have multiple gifted, let me go back here. Are there many parents who have multiple gifted learners? I have a 6th, 3rd, and a kindergarten, and I feel like they are being held back by me not being able to keep up with them. That's a great question. One thing that is important is when you have, do you feel like you are smashing out the fluff? Do you feel like you're compacting, Jennifer? And are you using, are you being able to combine maybe some of the stuff that you could do? Well, 6th, 3rd, and K, they are completely 3 different levels. And I know I have parents that have kids that are all different levels like that, and it is kind of hard. When you have maybe a 3rd grader and a 1st grader, you can combine the science and the history together, you know, but it is just a little bit more work. But part of it is if you're being able to use your lesson guides to help you highlight what you need to do, that will help you a ton. And that will help you to just focus and smash out the fluff. Now by doing that, you guys, by smashing out the fluff, what happens to your day? Your regular schooling day that takes, you know, a normal 5 hours, at least in the state of Idaho, students have to have at least 5 hours a day in order to have their attendance by the end of the year. What this does is it makes it so they finish school in maybe 3 hours instead of the 5 hours. So I've got an extra 2 hours that it's a requirement in the state of Idaho. They have to have 5 hours. So what am I going to do with my extra 2 hours in the day? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. Enrichment. What is enrichment? Go ahead and fill in your ABC for me. Is it drilling deeper into the content, making money, or a word for time? And yes, Brandy had put down a great place for a lot of these questions, like what you asked Jennifer earlier. giftedresources.com and go to our Facebook page. We'll have that posted again here at the end. And that is a great place to be able to post questions to one another. And one of your greatest resources are each other. And that Facebook page is a great place to post things to each other and to ask people questions and for them to comment on what works for them. Okay, thanks so much for bringing that up. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make our responses to the whiteboard. Yay! We had 100%. Drilling deeper into the content. I told you guys are gifted, right? All right, so drilling deeper into an area your student is passionate about. They have finished what an age-appropriate 3rd grader in the state of Idaho or in your state is required to do. Okay, that's what the online school is taking care of for you. Your online school is accommodated to your state standards of what you need to do with your online school. Okay, and you're satisfying what your kid would be learning in a traditional school at that day and that time. Okay, you're satisfying that, and so now you get to go deeper and into an area of interest. Maybe going deeper means your child, maybe they're gifted in math and they love math. So go ahead and let them do maybe additional lessons in math so eventually you're working at a higher level in math. Maybe it's doing additional math games. Whatever it may be, going into Study Island. I don't know if you guys have Study Island. You could go into a higher level of math. Maybe it's drilling deeper into language arts. Maybe your child wants to write a book. Guide them and help them with that. Get them in touch with mentors. Maybe there's a local author that you could have them talk to. Maybe they could design a video game, or maybe you could write a business plan. Maybe they could learn more about their hero. Maybe, just maybe, your student will change the world. And this drilling deeper is a time that is going to help them to be able to explore those passions and to drill deeper and to satisfy that hunger for knowledge. It is so, so important to provide that enrichment because it in itself is a motivational strategy. It in itself is a reward to get done with my online school so that I can have so much fun and drill deeper into that history lesson that I really wanted to learn more about Greece. Okay? That is what is a huge motivational strategy. So, did you know that kids need time to work on those things they are most passionate and excited about? Because again, I cannot stress it enough. It helps to alleviate boredom, frustration, underachievement, and even depression. Did you know that studies show, I found this out and I was appalled by it. I had no idea. Listen to this closely. Did you know that studies show that if you don't nurture a kid's giftedness, they can lose it? Yes, they can lose it. That is why it is so important to nourish a gifted kid's giftedness, because otherwise, by the time they reach about 8th grade, they will start to even out with their peers. All right, so I would like you to put in the direct messaging area for me. I want you to share with us what your students are most excited about. What do they love? What makes them excited that they would like to learn more about? Karate. Okay, maybe it's an area that they are more into sports or whatever it is. Let them excel in that area. Cooking, science, math, building things. Excellent. You guys have got some busy kids out there, and there's some really high needs out there that these kids need to explore. Gifted kids have questions about everything. Do you ever notice that? They'll have a question and you're like, I don't know, and I don't have the time to figure it out right now. Write their questions down on a sticky note. Put it on the fridge. That's your enrichment time. Okay, after we're finished with the online school, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the fridge, and okay, that's what we're going to look up and explore. Where are they going to go to the library? We're going to research it on the internet. Whatever it may be, we'll check out a book on it that you can read more about, because you know what? There will maybe come a time that your gifted kid exceeds your knowledge, but you need to have the tools to be able to help them and guide them to find out more and to satisfy their hunger for learning. And by you being able to guide them and know how to do these 3 things, accelerate and compact and enrich, you are helping them to be able to succeed and have a lifelong love of learning. And what I want to talk about next is called passion projects. More or less, enrichment is a passion project. Let your student be your guide, okay? Kids who can explore their interests are much more likely to keep their love of learning alive. It can be maybe a passion project. This can be really formal if you want. Some people feel like they need to have something written out and, okay, I'm a very visual learner. I need to be able to write it out and I need to see it in front of my face. And so that's what I'm going to send you right now is a little template to what I've got right here, passion projects. Now, in saying this, when I send this to you guys, don't feel like you have to use this. You don't have to. You can do it much more informal, like I said, with a sticky note, and then you just explore. But if you want an actual project that maybe your child wants to work on, that you are having progress with, that you want to see and check off, then this is a great little template for you. So let me pull up my file transfer library. And okay, so click yes that you want to save this when it comes across to your screen right now, okay? All right, so what is the time limit for passion projects? Well, okay, let's say my child is interested in marine biology. All right, I always use marine biology. That's an easy one for me. My daughter loves marine biology. Okay, so let's say they're interested in marine biology. So what I'm going to do is maybe, you know what, maybe she satisfies her hunger of marine biology in a week. And she's done with it and ready to move on to the next subject. Great. That was our passion project for the week. Or else maybe it's going to take a whole year for her to complete making this magical empire, the story that she wrote. Who knows? Let them be your guide. When they're finished and exhausted with a project or with an idea that they have satisfied everything they want to know about it, then go ahead and move on, okay? Help, though, your child make connections between schoolwork and their interests. That's huge for a gifted kid. Sometimes children lack motivation because they don't see a connection between the work they are being asked to do and their goals and their interests. A child who wants to be an astronaut should know that math and science is important in those jobs. A little research may be necessary to find requirements of various jobs, but you can do that. So link that if you can, okay? All right, so this is just talking about this template. You know, like I said, it can be something that you can make it more formal if you want, project description. And usually a project has some kind of an end thing that you made. Okay, so maybe you ended up making a book out of it, or maybe you ended up making a paper mache, or maybe you ended up making some kind of a science experiment out of it. That's usually, you can take it that much further by creating something from their passion, okay? All right, so this tells you interest areas of the project to help you kind of organize it. Getting started, what are the first steps that you should take to begin your work? You can list all that information here on this template if you would like. Okay, what I have here for you is an example of some passion projects that maybe you can get some ideas from. This is a student that connected it to art, Unit 1, Lesson 1 in the online school, many kinds of art. The self-portrait was their assignment. And it says, I begin each new school year by drawing a new self-portrait. Mom brought out a really interesting book she had on drawing faces by Andrew Loomis. It was a big help. I learned that the head is an oval shape. And then they went on to talk about that. And so that was a great passion project to be able to incorporate into their daily online school. Okay, here's another example for you. Model water treatment plant. This child decided to experiment with trying to create a model water treatment plant. This is something that he was interested in and wanted to work on. And so you see all the different pictures here, and this was his project. The actual outcome was he took pictures and put together kind of a portfolio, or you could make it a photo book or whatever it is that you would like to create. I've also had students, some more ideas is I've had other kids create a child that loves horses and photography, and so what this child did is that she took pictures of all the horses and a bunch of different animals, and then she put facts next to each of those animals, some interesting facts that she researched and looked up into some kind of a photo album. I have another student that created some Legos. He loved Legos, and what he did is he created Camelot, and he went to legos.com, and there's a link there, a teacher's link, for a lot of really great ideas if you have a kid that loves Legos. And there's great lesson plans and ideas that you can incorporate into those Legos. But this student researched and read the book Camelot, and then he created his little Camelot Lego castle afterwards. It was kind of neat. And then you can also even do, I don't know, this is an idea if I have any ALP coordinators out there, but I did this with my students, and then I had, at the end of the year, I had students choose one of their favorite passion projects that they wanted to share online, and we had an Illuminate session, and all the kids shared their, these pages, things like this, so that they were able to share with others what their favorite passion was. And so it was kind of interesting and fun for the kids. Okay, so keep in mind, though, that motivation is not always about school achievement. We often equate motivation with school achievement. However, it's important to note that some children are highly motivated to achieve goals, but those goals are unrelated to school. A gifted teen, for example, may be more interested in creating a volunteer community program for the elderly or for the underprivileged. And achievement is not motivation here. It's important to remember that while you may get your child to get homework done, he or she may never be truly motivated to do it, and that's okay. However, if you apply these strategies we did today, you're going to have a lot more success. Your child's going to be happier, and you are going to be happier. You have an amazing opportunity to have a huge impact on your child and to help shape their future. Teach them to work. Teach them to dream. Teach them to set goals. Teach them that they can become anything it is that they want to be. I want to share with you guys a short video clip that is a great little emphasis. It's my exclamation point to what I just said. So let me go ahead and send that out to you right now. Just a second here. If it doesn't automatically load on your whiteboard, I'll put it in the chat box and you can click on it there and you can watch it from there. Here you go. Okay, I don't know if everyone was able to watch that or not. It just more or less is an uplifting little video about making sure that you, oh yeah, I don't have the green check mark. There it is now. Thank you, Dr. B. Just being able to make sure that when your child, help them understand that if they have a dream, they can achieve it. They can do it and they can become it. And by you being able to teach them how to work, how to be able to have motivation and that love of learning, they are going to be the ones that are our next future scientists that figure out the cure to cancer. They're going to be the ones that will fly, and we invent the cars that are actual airplanes that we drive around. They are going to be the ones that are amazing, that are our future. It is so important you help them to become those adults. And by doing these things, it will help them to get there. Okay? If you want to watch that video later, you can just go ahead. I'm putting it in the chat box. You can copy it down with a piece of paper and a pencil, or you can click directly on it and you should be able to have it open. If not, just write it down and watch it later. All right, so in finishing up today, I would like to know if you have any questions. Go ahead and we can put those in the chat box. What I'll probably do, though, before we answer questions is I'll finish up with this session, and then we will close the recording out, and then I will go ahead and answer questions after that. But before we go to our questions, I just would like to know how you guys felt today, what your learning zone was. So please take your pen tool, which is the pointer button over here, remember, like we did at the beginning, and I want you to share with me what your comfort level is today now on implementing these motivational strategies. Your acceleration, contacting, enrichment. Is your comfort level yes in the sweet zone here that I can handle this, no problem? Or is it in the learning zone? It's out of my comfort zone, but I feel like I can do this. That would be the learning zone. The panic zone is saying, I can barely keep up, and I will not be doing this. Please, if you feel like you are in the panic zone, I want to encourage you right now to pick up the phone and call your teacher. That's what you have. This is the greatest little system, the K-12 program, because you have a teacher right there at your fingertips, that their specialty is your child, okay? And so talk to your teacher. Email them, K-mail them, pick up the phone, and talk to them about your concerns and help them to understand where you're at so they can help you if you're feeling in that panic zone, okay? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the wonderful session today. We will have this recorded. This recording link, we'll make sure to put it onto our Gifted Resources page. And Brandy, are we putting that on the not Gifted is it also going to be on the Facebook page, or do we just put it on the Gifted Resources? It'll be in the newsletter. Okay, so make sure you sign up for the newsletter. And that's on this next page here I want you to see. Thanks for joining us. If you would like to view past trainings, go to giftedresources.com and sign up for our newsletter. You can also like us on our Facebook fan page to connect with other gifted teachers or other gifted parents and teachers. There's tons of different gifted people, professionals out there that are on that Facebook fan page. All right, thank you, everyone. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now, and then we'll address any questions that you may have next. Thanks so much, and don't forget to tune back in tomorrow for Dr. B's session on iPicky. All right, thanks a lot.